Hey, welcome to Whatcha Doin with Brandon Horwin.
And Sophie Williams. And today's special guest
Hi, my
is.
name is Tonya Pinkins. I'm a Tony Award winning actress, and I'm the writer, producer, director of the award winning feature film Red Pill. You can follow us at redpillmovie2020.com.
And we're definitely going to touch on that a little more in a little bit. But first, welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're psyched to have you on. And the first thing I want to ask you is can you tell us a little bit about your journey to acting, performing, theater, TV, and film, sort of how you got your start and where some of the roads led you to, climb up the ladder in your career?
Well, I'm from Chicago, and I started taking little acting classes probably when I was about 8 or 9 years old. My mother put me in a little theater program where I got to be in Peter Pan and The Sound of Music. And God, I feel like, what was her name? Frances Hill or something was a voice teacher I had when I was in elementary school, or Frances Moore, one of those. And Frances Moore. And then, I did like modeling classes at Sears. I think I was like the Sears preteen queen. But by the time I was maybe 12 or 13, I started getting a little shy about performing, such that when I got it cast as Annie in The Miracle Worker in my seventh grade class, I was not willing to sing the song, and I just hummed it. But then by the next year, I was playing in The King and I was singing and playing Anna. And then in high school at Whitney Young, I did Wonderful Town. And I guess I played the sister who sings the aria that, nice people, nice talk, and she's hitting all those notes. And at the same time, I was studying professionally at a school for adults, which was the St. Nicholas Theater Company, and William H. Macy was my acting teacher. So I was in class with adults. Trying to think of his name right now. Gosh, it's not going to come to me. Mahoney, John Mahoney was in my class. He had just like finished his work as a blue collar worker. He was like 45, and we were both taking our first professional acting classes together at St. Nicholas with Stephen Schachter and Bill Macy. And then I did the Goodman Summer Theater Program. I'd also done the Cherub program at Northwestern one summer. And I was cast in the world premiere of Wole Soyinka, who's a Nigerian poet laureate, ex-prisoner of war, his American premiere of a play called Death and the King's Horseman, which took me to the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. during my senior year in high school. And then I had to choose, what school I was going to go to. Yale had always been my number one choice. So I remember my school tours was like visiting Yale and Juilliard. And I got accepted everywhere, I think, except NYU. Um, the choice for me was really between Yale and Juilliard and Carnegie Mellon. And Carnegie Mellon had a musical theater program. Yale actually didn't have an undergraduate drama program. Juilliard was in New York City, which I, after visiting it, didn't really want to live in. And sort of by a weird number system of default that I created for myself, Carnegie Mellon won. And that's where I ended up going. Over my Christmas break at Carnegie Mellon, I came back home to Chicago for an open call for Merrily We Roll Along, and auditioned for Joanna Merlin, and then came to New York over Christmas and auditioned for Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim and was cast in that show, which brought me to New York a year later, and I guess it's 1981, September of 1981. And so being cast by Hal and Steve and coming to New York in your first Broadway show means getting an agent is a very different thing. It's kind of easy to get an agent because they picked you. At that time, being exclusive wasn't that so much. So I was with multiple agents, with different people sending me out for different things, which created its own complications. And that's the story of my beginning.
That is amazing. You actually touched on my next question, which was, we've both seen the documentary. So, what was it like being able to craft a new musical with Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim as a young performer?
Um, of course, it was like a dream come true. That was the gods of the theater who I wanted to work with all my life growing up, listening to their musicals that they had done together. And so it was like, oh my God. And yet at the same time, I'm intuitive and I'm clairvoyant, and I just never thought it was going to work. I don't really know how to tell you that, but people would be like, "Oh my God, you're going to Broadway, and it's going to be like you're going to be so famous." And I'm like, We'll see." Um, just that, as I've grown older, I just trust my instinct. Like, there's no logic to it. Like, sometimes I'll just get a feeling about something, and I just have to go, okay. So it was fascinating to sit and watch the gods of the theater fail again and again and again and again. And um, I think that I've always been a kind of director actor where I don't just see my own part, I see the whole thing. So I could watch them making decisions that I could just see that wasn't going to work. And so it was really fascinating to me because actually I think it was the most wonderful thing about it is it's made me know that, oh, the most successful people in the world fail a lot. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to fail at today that's going to lead me to doing something amazing?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's an amazing documentary that chronicles the process of that show that I don't, you don't realize all that went into it and behind the scenes. So that's awesome. Um, sort of in that same vein, you've had a wide range of roles on Broadway, ranging from the lead in Caroline or Change to Mame Wilkes and August Wilson's Radio Golf. So, what is your process like in crafting each role for each show as you go along?
My process is usually that I pick material based on who I'm gonna be in the room with. Like if there are people whose work I admire and I want to get to play with them, that's mostly how I pick it. Sometimes if I read a script and it just speaks to me, but mostly it's like, oh gosh, I like them. I like what they do. I wanna learn from them. I want to get in the room and play with them. Um, I also intuitively have a sense about what kind of work I can hold my head up doing. And so there are times when there have been shows that I knew would be a hit, and I was just like, not for me to do because I had an instinctive sense that it wasn't right. Like, I did Thoroughly Modern Millie on the Road, and there were just problematic issues of representation in that. I had once been offered Madame Tiang in King and I with Donna Murphy, actually, and that was just not something for me either. Um, so it's a process of what are my values, and um, I feel like my presence in something is an endorsement of that, and so I for the most part, have worked to get to the point where I live a simple enough life that I don't have to do anything that I can't hold my head up doing.
That's amazing. And so, going off that, you've won numerous awards for theater, but most notably, you won a Tony Award for Best Featured Actress for your performance in Jelly's Last Jam. What was that moment like for you receiving Broadway's highest honor? And then how did that impact your career?
Well, it was just like a dream come true. Like, oh my God, I always wanted to win a Tony Award. And the Times on the Friday before said it wasn't going to happen. So I kind of, went to the awards. Jean London dressed me in this old navy blue velvet Hollywood gown. And when you're a Tony nominee, you get to borrow diamonds from the top diamond places in the world. So I had on like $1 million worth of Harry Winston jewels, and I was in like old Hollywood glamour. And just to get to dress up like that in and of itself was amazing. So I went there just to enjoy getting to walk a red carpet looking like an old Hollywood star. When my name was called, it was a complete surprise. I was so out of it. I remember I didn't thank everyone that I wanted to thank. And then I walked past a bunch of people who were saying, congratulations, didn't even recognize them. It was the cast of Jelly who were performing from the show right after I won. Just, so in a daze. And then one of the funny things is like people don't realize that you have to buy tickets to go to the Tonys and you have to buy tickets to go to the party after. And they're very expensive. And the producers had only bought us tickets to the awards, so I got to crash the party afterwards. My agent at the time was like, she just won one, so let her in this party.
That's great. So switching gears just a little bit, you have had an amazingly successful career on television with appearances on shows such as Law and Order, All My Children, 24, Criminal Minds, As the World Turns, Scandal, just to like name a few. So what would you say the key is to nailing a TV audition, and how does it differ from a theatrical more audition?
Oh my, I don't know that I'm the expert on that, but definitely you need to look at the shows and see what the style of the show is, because different shows have different kinds of acting, quite honestly. um some shows, they're just like, the style of the show is like the no acting style, where no matter what happens, nobody responds. Mom just died. I know it's terrible. Let's go and sit down and feel really bad about that. I mean, that is a style on some shows. So I think that that's a piece to be aware of that style. And I think the biggest thing for television is that it requires a lack of muscularity. That on stage, the bigger the gesture in your body, the bigger the physicalization, the bigger the facial expression, so that it can carry to the back of the house. On screen, it's really reduced to eyes and face and not a lot of body work, because if there's a gesture that they want, it's scripted and they're going to do an insert of it. And so not paying so much to your body, and you really, because the box of the frame is so small, you actually have to learn how to get all the energy that you can physically express on the stage, and figure out how do you have all that happen and stay inside this box. And I really had to train specifically with teachers about that. Tim Phillips, Amy Jo Berman, um, getting to understand that TV scripts, probably all scripts, but there's almost a kind of poetry in the language, and figuring out, um, usually the writers are giving the characters names that are telling you about the quality of the characters. Um, Tim Phillips talks about Sherlock Holmesing a script and just going word by word and determining, what do I know based on the words the writer chose, and really not putting anything else in but the words the writers chose, because TV is a writers, the writers are the showrunners, they're the EPs, they are the boss. It is not a director's medium. So really just paying attention to every word, and making your decisions about who that character is based on the words that the writer has given you, no more. I think on film, that is another place where I feel like I am a tool for a director, because what I know as a director, you can take a performance that you shot and you can cut it in a number of different ways. I can take a reaction from any scene and put it somewhere else, and so your performance is really in the hand of your director and your editor. So you show up to be facile enough to give them the choices that they want to see to work with in the editing room. Really, the theater is the place where the actor has the most control. You go out on stage every night, it's yours. And I say the bear is going to do what the bear is going to do.
That's great. In this similar vein, one of your most recent projects is called Women of the Movement, and it's a historical drama limited series following the murder of Emmett Till and the aftermath of his murder within his family and the world. And you star as his grandmother, Alma Carthan. So, what has it been like to be able to have something after a year of really so little work and so little creativity, to have something so powerful just kind of burst out on the scene?
Well, that hasn't been my story in this year. I've been working throughout the pandemic. I have my first feature
That's great for you.
to Seoul, Korea to cut my film, which just came out at the Pan African Film Festival last month. So I've been working, fortunately, and I've been down here in Mississippi shooting Women of the Movement for the last almost 3 months. It is, the story of the modern civil rights movement and speaks to many of the things that my movie is about. This power of white women to cause death Black bodies. So we're telling aspects of this story that have never been told before because there's just not American history in schools, in the news, don't really tell the full story. So we have 6.5 hours to tell this story of this family and of Mamie Till's courageous decision to leave a casket open so that the world could witness what white supremacy had done to this 14-year-old 5'3" boy's body, that every tooth in his mouth had been knocked out, that they had chopped most of his nose off, that they had shot him in the head and thrown him in the river with a cotton gin around him, and then buried him. And she had to have him exhumed because they were going to try to keep her from ever seeing him. And they were acquitted because the defense alleged that it wasn't him, that no one could prove that it was him, even though he had an original ring that was his father's military ring on his finger. That was what their defense was. You can't prove that it's him, and we of course didn't have DNA at that time. So subsequently, about 10 years ago, they found the murder weapon and exhumed him again to allay that story that that wasn't ever Emmett Till, and they, definitively proved that it was him. So this is 6 hours to explore all that the injustice of that case.
Absolutely. And you've also been featured in a number of films, including Enchanted and Romance and Cigarettes, with an incredible cast, which I have to ask because I was looking at your list of films and realized that Romance and Cigarettes, and I clicked on the title, which I have not seen the film, but now I really do want to, with Susan Sarandon and Elaine Stritch and James Gandolfini, Steve Buscemi, Christopher Walken, Bobby Cannavale. So first, how would you describe, your process on film, throughout your long list of films that you've worked on, and what was that particular gig like, working with, legends of the screen and stage?
John Turturro is a lot of fun. And that's John's film. He directed it. I'm always terrified when I have to go on a film set because, from my experience, for the most part, you don't know anything. Like, you've done an audition, you don't know why they cast you, you don't know what they're looking for, and you show up and you've got a film and you have no direction of what to do or what to be. So I'm always a little terrified. I remember how scared I was to do that movie, and I remember just feeling terrible and not very funny, and that's how I felt doing that one. But decades of working at it, I'm getting a little more comfortable, and I'm getting to have the facility on camera in film that I have as an actress on stage because I've just done it for a lot longer. I have a lot more practice at it.
Yes, so in the same vein, you previously mentioned you have written, produced, directed, and starred in your new film, Red Pill. So can you tell us a little bit about it and where we can find it in the future?
Well, I wish I knew where you could find it in the future, but you can follow us at www.redpillmovie2020.com and sign up for a newsletter to be an ambassador so that you know exactly when we are going to release it again. We just finished at the Pan African Film Festival, and we're doing festivals all over the world. We won an award in Sweden for Best First Feature, and in Mykonos for Best First Feature, and Best Black Lives Matter film. We have nominations for our score, nominations for our cinematography. Kathy Irby won a Best Actress award. Ruben Blades won a Best Actor award in Barcelona. It's just been incredible to see what we made together. Yeah, I feel like I've been working as an actress for almost 50 years professionally. And um, the culture of capitalism is really a youth worshiping culture, which is wonderful, but it ignores the vast wealth that is available in people as they get older. Wisdom, something that you just can't have until you've lived long enough. So I feel like this film was an opportunity for me to use all the wisdom of experience and all the amazing people that I've worked with and learned from, and then my relationship capital to get Ruben Blades and Luba Mason and Kathy Curtin and Kolba Menifee and Adeshalo Sakalumi and Luba, all of them to come and play with me and make this film, which is really about a Black female gaze on white America and what we as Black people are afraid of, as opposed to the other stories that are always someone's gaze on us that have never felt accurate for me, and which, had I not produced and financed the film myself, I don't think this kind of story could ever be told inside a studio system, because Hollywood is the government propaganda arm, for every country.
Great. Well, we will keep an eye out for that and keep our listeners and audiences posted on that as well. And hopefully they'll follow you along, as we will too, the journey on the release of that film in the future in the United States. Um, so switching gears just a little bit, you've created roles from scratch on various mediums, as we talked about. You've portrayed real life figures and recreated roles on the stage screen. So do you find one more challenging than the other? And does your preparation and execution of the roles going forward then sort of remain the same across the board, or does it change depending on if you're depicting someone in real life versus creating something from scratch?
Well, I was trained in, I started off being trained in the Stanislavski method, then really began focusing on Meisner method. And so those are very, very specific techniques, craft. At this point in time, I mean, I can play almost any acting thing in my sleep. The structure is so built up from 50 years of work that not only do I not have to work that hard to do it, generally, if I'm working with other people, it's best that I don't do any work, because I just don't know that many people that work the way I work and work as hard as I work. Shauna Murphy, definitely. We have a similar kind of style, but it just is going to become a frustration for me and for them, because I'm going to be talking about things that they just can't even fathom. So I now just show up to play with people and allow them to, I'm putting my talent in their hands if I choose to do that, for them to play with me. But if I actually start exploring it, I'm going to be so far ahead of everybody that it's not going to be fun for me. And then we're all going to be frustrated. So I just kind of show up empty now for people.
Thank you. So our audience is comprised of young artists, aspiring performers, and you have had an amazing career. So I just want to know how you found your voice and really managed to separate yourself from the crowd as an actor.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not famous or super famous or anything like that. I didn't become a superstar or even a big TV or movie star or anything like that. But I do what I believe in, and I'm kind of a little competitive. So whatever I do, I want to be the best at it. I got a little bit of a competitive spirit. I was just watching this documentary, The Push. Darren, what is his name? Darren Warren or something like that. He's a mentalist. And I realized that I think I'm just kind of just not a compliant person. I think that not being a compliant person entails that whatever I do is going to always be interesting and surprising, because it's not going to be like what anybody else does, because I'm always going like, everybody's doing that. Well, what else can I do? Just my nature. If everybody's doing it, or if I've done it before, I don't want to do it again. I want to know what else. What else? What haven't I done? I'm almost like there's this quote I always say: brilliance lies in the moment that might not work. If I'm not risking failing, I'm kind of not interested in coming along for the ride. Like, it's got to be something in here that I might fail at. So I know I got to work really hard to learn how to do it. So that is definitely the standard for what I'm looking to do. Okay, don't know how to do this. Got to work real hard and learn how. I think that, like, that's what life is. This whole life is about learning to solve problems, failing and getting back up. And when you're not doing that, you're just like decaying and dying. So for me, that spirit of risking and trying and wanting to do more and working harder and challenging myself, that is what I say sets me apart, because I live for that.
Absolutely. So, do you have a favorite TV show, Broadway show, stage production, movie that you've done over the years? I always just like to know if there's something that one of your projects that sticks out as particularly special to you, or someone that you've worked with that sort of, changed your life per se.
I probably have all of those things. So, a show that very few people in New York got to see that I loved doing was Play On. It was this amazing musical with Larry Marshall and Carl Anderson and Andre DeShields and Yvette Casson, and just, oh my God, it was like one show-stopping number after another show-stopping number. And I played Lady Liv, and when we did it on the road, I was pregnant with my daughter, so it's special to me in that way. And I was nominated for a Tony for that, but the producer closed it. So that is a show that I love doing. My daughter was born during it, and very few people got to see that show. Their album does exist, though. On television, Martha, the filthy woman on Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, I love playing villainesses. There's just nothing more fun than that. I just wish she'd lived longer. And then a person that I've worked with would be George C. Wolfe. Just once you've worked with George C. Wolfe, you are ruined for life, forever working with anyone ever again, because his capacity intellectually, creatively, spiritually, humorously is so far beyond most human beings that everyone else is just underwhelming thereafter. And I've had the privilege of working with him 6 times, and I can call him my friend. So he's someone I can pick up the phone and ask advice. So yeah, he changed my life, and I wouldn't have the career I had if I didn't have someone with that capacity who was able to see my capacity and to get out of the way and let me step into the fullness of that. Because most people just they just don't think that big. And so in the presence of someone who does, it gets scary to them. They get fearful, and then they start to attack and start to try to break you down because they're not comfortable in that shining thing. So, for young people out there, you have to recognize when you're shining bigger than the space and the room that you're in, and try not to allow destructive people to dampen that shine, because the majority of people you meet just aren't willing to shine. It's very hard to shine. It makes people uncomfortable because our culture doesn't invite everyone to shine. But I always want to invite people to shine, because if we all are shining, what a bright, wonderful world it would be.
That's amazing. And on that same point, what advice would you have for an aspiring performer or a young artist going forward, trying to make it in the industry?
Advice that no one's going to listen to. Until years old, they will know that I spoke the absolute truth to them. There is no right way. Doesn't exist. Anybody who tells you there is, they're lying to you. And you can buy everything you want. And yeah, I take classes all the time because people inspire me. You forget things, you need reminders, you need reminders in different ways. But what I know to be true is that whatever that little something that's inside of you that gets you excited and makes you smile and that you dream about and you don't know how, but it gets you excited every time you think about it, every time you cross your mind, that's what you're supposed to do. That is what you were put on the earth to do. There's a Cherokee birth blessing. May you live long enough to know why you were born. And I think it's may you live long enough to actually do what you were born to do by following that spark. And even if sometimes you get off the path of that spark, if you commit to following that, every little detour can just strengthen you and sharpen your skills to do that. But that is your North Star. That is your North Star. And no one, you know, when you're on that North Star by that feeling inside of you. And to surround yourself with people who keep pointing you and guiding you towards that. People who can see you in bigger ways than you can see yourself. Not people who tell you what you can't do because they don't have crystal balls. Nobody knows what's possible. But that passionate, excited feeling, that is the guidance that's in each and every one of us. And it doesn't look like anybody else's. Your path will not ever look like anybody else's. So you got to make it your way, do it your way, invent a new way that's never been done before.
That's superb advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just wrapping up, is there a favorite story that you'd love to share with us today from your career? Just a story that you love to tell.
No. No, I mean, I think mostly the favorite stories I love to tell are usually stories of overcoming some hardship. Those are the stories that to me are the great stories. Like it looked like everything was going to go wrong, and this went wrong, and that went wrong, and that went wrong. I mean, I guess for me, the story that's most exciting to me in the moment is that, I'm 58 years old. I feel like I'm at the top of my game. There's nothing I can't do. And yet, in terms of opportunities, they're diminishing. And I always say to people, I'm getting hired to be one of the props who eats. Like, I don't even get hired to do, a pinky's worth of what I can do anymore. And so when I decided to do this film, I didn't know what I was doing. I never made a movie before, but that was after me trying to do things the right way. Like I applied to Yale School of Directing. I didn't get in. I asked various famous directors I know to let me be their assistant. They all said no. I asked showrunners I knew to give me an opportunity as a director. They all said no. I shadowed on many TV shows as a director. I applied for all the fellowships and directing programs. I didn't get in any of them. Um, I decided I wanted to make a movie and I hired a professional producer to do my budget and schedule. And they were like, you don't have enough money. You don't have enough time. I hired another one to look at what they said. And they were like, that's too little money and that's too little time. And yet I was like, well, I'm going to make something and I'm going to make it with what I have. So you all say I can't make it the way you say it's got to be made. Well, I'm going to make something. And I made Red Pill. It is a feature film. It's 87 minutes long. It looks beautiful. It's got visual effects. It's got aerial photography. It's got 6 amazing actors. It's funny. It's terrifying. It's philosophical. It's political. And I made it with what I had that everybody told me was not enough. I think that's my favorite story at the moment, that I just did what I could do with what I had, despite everyone telling me what I couldn't do.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Congratulations on that too, because that's an amazing accomplishment to be, supremely proud of. And thank you for sharing all of that with us as well. Um, On that note, again, congratulations on the career you've had and continue to have going forward. Because, as you said, you feel great and you're ready to take on anything. So we can't wait to see what's next for you. And thank you for sharing your career and advice and inspiration with us and our audiences today. We're super appreciative that you've joined us and did that with us today.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.